Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've got my notes and charts all ready to go here.
Awesome. So today, our mission is basically to act as the ultimate shortcut for you, the listener. We're distilling this massive, comprehensive, lifetime health checklist for golden retrievers down to, its most crucial, actionable nuggets.
Right, because nobody really wants to read a giant medical textbook if they don't have to.
Exactly. And I should say up front, while our sources today focus specifically on golden retrievers, the aha moments we found here apply to how we think about long-term care for pretty much any living creature.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The foundational principles of animal stewardship are universally relevant.
So kicking things off, there was this one observation from the text that really stuck with me. It pointed out that when you break an arm, the diagnostic process is essentially perfect.
Right, it's completely straightforward.
Yeah, you go to the hospital, the x-ray shows this clean, jagged white line across the bone, and the doctor just points to the screen and says, well, there it is.
It's binary, broken or not broken.
Exactly. You put a cast on it and it heals. But when you step into the reality of long-term care, like maintaining the health of a complex living creature over 10 to 15 years, there is no x-ray for that.
No, not at all. It is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters.
Muddy waters. I like that.
Yeah, because, we're culturally conditioned to expect health to be this series of solvable events. Like you get sick, you take a pill, you are cured.
Right, a quick fix.
Exactly. But preventive medicine, particularly for a dog that ages at an accelerated rate compared to us, it operates on a totally different timeline. The accumulation of what you do every single day is what actually dictates their biological reality a decade later.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the best analogy I could think of while reading this was that managing a dog's health is basically like investing in an index fund.
Oh, that's a really good way to look at it.
Right. People get so caught up trying to find like the one miracle supplement or some trendy, expensive diet.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to pick the next massive tech stock to win the lottery.
Totally. But the research data completely strips all that away. It's not about the lottery ticket. It's the small, seemingly boring daily deposits of proper care that compound into this huge health payoff later.
Yes, and the most foundational daily deposit, the absolute baseline of all this, is nutrition. Health is an ongoing practice, not a one-time event.
So let's talk about nutrition, because I think a lot of people misunderstand it.
What's fascinating here is how we really need to reframe nutrition. It's not just, fueling the machine.
Right. It's not just putting gas in the car.
No, it's a highly dynamic pillar that dictates internal inflammation. Yes, you obviously need a complete and balanced diet, but the core focus of the data is on strict portion management and a hyper-awareness of body condition based on life stages.
Which is where most people fail, I think. Because, I mean, a slightly chubby golden retriever looks adorable.
They do. They look like teddy bears.
Yeah. We equate feeding our dogs with loving our dogs. But what is actually happening mechanically when an owner lets their dog carry an extra, say, 5 or 10 pounds?
Well, it's essentially a two-front war on the dog's body.
Yeah.
First, you have the mechanical stress. Think of a dog's skeletal frame as a bridge that was engineered for a very specific weight limit.
Okay, I'm picturing that.
When you add 5 pounds to a golden retriever, every single time they jump off the couch or run down the stairs, the force of impact on their joints is multiplied.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Over time, that unnatural pressure literally grinds down the cartilage in the joints.
So it's a structural engineering failure.
Precisely. But the second front is chemical. Adipose tissue, which is just body fat, is not passive.
Wait, what do you mean? It doesn't just sit there.
No, it's not just inert blubber sitting under the skin. It is an active endocrine organ.
Fat as an organ.
Yes, excess fat actually secretes inflammatory hormones directly into the dog's bloodstream.
That is wild. I had no idea.
Right, so a dog carrying excess weight is existing in a state of chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation all the time.
Which just wreaks havoc on everything else.
Exactly. That inflammation accelerates arthritis, degrades tissue, and just sets the stage for a cascade of mobility issues. So by strictly managing those daily portions, you aren't just keeping the dog looking fit. You are literally turning off an internal inflammatory faucet.
That completely changes the stakes of, like, slipping a dog some table scraps. It's not just a few extra calories, it's a chemical and mechanical tax you are putting on their future mobility.
A very heavy tax, yes.
Which naturally brings us to the other side of the physiological equation. Because if nutrition is the intake, physical activity and mental stimulation are the output.
They are inextricably linked. You cannot manage the internal environment without managing how the animal interacts with the external environment.
Right, and the data frames this need for activity as a constant throughout the dog's entire life. But the form it takes has to evolve, right? Like a 2-year-old dog needs high energy fetching, but a 10-year-old dog needs gentler walks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Adapting that output thoughtfully to puppyhood, adulthood, and then those senior phases, that is the hallmark of attentive stewardship.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second on behalf of the listener. Because if a senior dog has arthritis and clearly just wants to sleep by the fireplace all day, aren't we doing more harm than good by forcing them to do puzzles or go on walks?
That's a very fair point to bring up.
Right. Like, at what point is resting actually the healthier option? I've seen older dogs who just look exhausted. Why force stimulation on an animal that is begging to just nap on the rug?
This raises an important question, and it is easily one of the most common traps owners fall into.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We project human ideas of retirement onto our pets. We think they've earned the right to just do nothing.
Guilty as charged.
But applying the exact same sedentary routine across all life stages, or just letting a senior dog be totally inactive because they seem sleepy, is a massive biological mistake. Mental engagement supports physical health and emotional well-being at all stages, especially in the senior years.
Wait, how does doing a puzzle toy support physical weight? That sounds like a contradiction.
Because the brain is a highly energy-hungry organ.
Hmm.
Keeping the neurological pathways active actually burns calories.
I never thought about it like that.
But more importantly, we have to talk about neuroplasticity and cognitive decline. Dogs get a version of dementia known as canine cognitive dysfunction.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It really is. And when a dog is left to just sleep for 20 hours a day with zero mental engagement, their cognitive function degrades rapidly. The brain physically needs to process information to stay healthy.
So we aren't talking about forcing a 10-year-old dog with bad hips to go run 3 miles in the park.
Not at all. The form changes. This is where adapting to the life stage is crucial. You shift to something like scent work.
Scent work, like sniffing things out.
Exactly. A dog's olfactory bulb is incredibly powerful, and processing smells is a massive neurological workout for them. Taking 15 minutes to just hide treats around the living room and letting the dog sniff them out engages their brain, burns metabolic energy, and keeps them emotionally tethered to their environment.
And it doesn't hurt their joints.
Right, all without putting a single ounce of impact stress on their arthritic hips. You have to adapt the care so the dog doesn't just fade into the background.
That makes so much sense. It's about giving them data to process, not miles to run.
Beautifully said.
And if you are doing these adapted exercises, like the slow walks where they get to sniff every single mailbox or those low-impact games in the house, it naturally positions you to do something else entirely. It turns out that daily exercise isn't just a workout, it's a daily diagnostic check.
Yes, it is your daily data collection. You are watching how they get up from a resting position, how they turn their neck, how quickly they tire out compared to last month.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Because we are culturally conditioned to think that the best diagnostic tool in the world is, a $1 million MRI machine or a massive panel of blood tests.
Sure, we trust the technology.
But the veterinary consensus argues that the most powerful diagnostic tool is actually a highly observant owner who knows their dog's baseline.
The baseline is everything.
An MRI is like a photograph of a house, right? It tells you what it looks like today at exactly 2:00 p.m. But the owner is the security camera. You know exactly what day the window was broken because you know the baseline.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. Recognizing early warning signs doesn't require a veterinary medical degree. It just requires you to intimately know what normal looks like for your specific animal.
Right, because dogs have off days just like we do.
They definitely do. And the key concept to grasp here is the difference between a day-to-day variation and a persistent change.
Give us an example of that.
Well, if your dog doesn't eat their breakfast one morning because, say, there was a loud thunderstorm the night before and they're just a bit stressed out, that's a variation.
You note it, but you don't panic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if they leave half their breakfast in the bowl for 4 days in a row, or they suddenly start hesitating before jumping into the car when they used to vault right into it, that is a persistent change in their demeanor or mobility.
Got it. It's the pattern that matters.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the diseases that become unmanageable nightmares for owners are usually the ones that were allowed to progress silently for 6 months, simply because no one was paying attention to the baseline.
You mentioned catching things at the baseline. But there is one area where the baseline hides its damage beautifully until it's far too late, and that's the mouth.
Oh, yes. Dental health.
Like, you might notice a slight limp immediately on a walk, but you won't notice plaque bacteria quietly entering a dog's bloodstream. Dental health is flagged in the research as one of the most heavily underestimated aspects of long-term animal care.
It is a massive blind spot. People tend to completely ignore the mouth until the dog has terrible breath or is literally losing teeth.
Which is way too late.
Way too late. By the time a dog's breath is clearing a room, the systemic damage is often already well underway.
Walk us through that mechanism. How does bad breath turn into systemic damage? Because that sounds like a leap.
It does, but it's very direct. It starts with plaque, which hardens into tartar. That tartar builds up along the gum line and physically pushes the gums away from the teeth, creating these little pockets.
Oh, okay. Sounds painful.
It is. And those pockets become breeding grounds for bacteria. Now, because the gums are highly vascular, meaning they're absolutely full of blood vessels, that bacteria doesn't just stay in the mouth. Every single time the dog chews, bacteria is pushed directly into the bloodstream.
So it's basically an open door to the rest of the body?
Exactly. And where does that blood go? It travels straight to the heart and the kidneys.
Oh.
The bacteria can actually attach to the mitral valve of the heart, causing murmurs and heart disease. And it constantly taxes the kidneys, which are forced to filter out all this extra toxicity.
That is wild. So brushing a dog's teeth isn't just this cosmetic exercise to make their breath smell better for us. It is literally organ preservation.
It is entirely about organ preservation.
Yeah.
Consistent small habits, like early and regular brushing at home and having the vet check the teeth during routine visits, prevent this entire cascade.
You can't just fix it later.
No, you cannot ignore a dog's teeth for 6 years and expect one intensive, incredibly expensive dental surgery to magically undo all the systemic inflammation and organ tax that poor oral hygiene caused.
It ties right back to those daily index fund deposits we were talking about. Routine home checks of the teeth, flipping back the ears to check for weird smells, running your hands over their coat to feel for lumps. It builds a sustainable rhythm.
It really does. It shouldn't feel like a sterile medical exam every time. It just becomes second nature, a daily rhythm of physical contact.
But of course, noticing a lump or red gums at home is entirely useless if you don't have a structured relationship with a professional to actually act on that information.
Absolutely. The veterinarian is your lifelong partner in this architecture of health. And a huge mistake a lot of people make is treating the vet like an emergency room.
Right. They only go when something is visibly broken or the dog is in crisis.
Exactly. But the visits should be ongoing conversations, not just panic trips.
The research stresses that the frequency of those conversations has to evolve over time, too. Like, puppies need very frequent early visits, right?
Yes, to establish immunities and track their initial growth plates.
And then healthy adults generally shift to annual wellness exams to check blood baselines.
Correct. And then senior dogs, much like older humans, require a shift back to more frequent monitoring, usually every 6 months, to catch that age-related decline before it accelerates.
And through all of those life stages, vaccinations and parasite prevention are the lifelong constants, though I imagine that's heavily dependent on where you live.
Very much so. They are guided by your vet and your regional lifestyle. A golden retriever living in a high-rise apartment in the city has a very different risk profile than one hiking through deer-tick-infested woods every weekend.
But parasite prevention itself is non-negotiable.
Completely non-negotiable.
So what does this all mean when we start talking about genetics? Because, if you're listening right now and you own a purebred dog, you've probably Googled their breed health risks and absolutely terrified yourself.
The late-night doom scrolling, yes.
Right. For golden retrievers specifically, the data highlights predispositions to hip and elbow dysplasia, certain eye conditions, and a broadly elevated risk of various cancers. How do you, as an owner, hold that knowledge without just hovering over your dog in a state of constant, paralyzing anxiety for their entire life?
This raises a really important question. It is a heavy psychological burden for pet owners, but we have to define our terms carefully here.
Okay, clarify that for us.
The research provides a way out of that anxiety by making a crucial distinction. Predisposition means increased risk. It does not mean certainty. It is not a prophecy.
So it's just a possibility, not a guarantee.
Right. Let's look at dysplasia, for example. Dysplasia is a genetic predisposition where the ball and socket joints in the hips or elbows don't fit together perfectly. But genetics only load the gun. The environment pulls the trigger.
Oh, that's a powerful way to frame it.
If you know your dog is predisposed to joint failure, that knowledge is a roadmap. It tells you exactly why you cannot overfeed them during their rapid puppy growth phase and why you absolutely must keep them lean as adults.
Because if they have a slightly imperfect joint, keeping them lean means there is less mechanical stress grinding that joint down, like we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Knowing the risk transforms you from a reactive owner into a proactive advocate. It means you ask your vet for specific screenings. You check for lumps more frequently if cancer is a known risk. It shouldn't be a source of fear. It is the ultimate tool for proactive, targeted care.
That is a huge relief, honestly. The
Yeah.
knowledge is a tool, not a death sentence. But part of wielding that tool effectively is actually remembering all this data over 10 or 15 years. The long-term care guidelines heavily emphasize keeping accurate medical records.
Organization is literally a form of medical care. You need a clear history of vaccinations, wellness results, and past concerns.
And practically speaking, you need to know exactly where your nearest 24-hour after-hours clinic is before it's 2:00 a.m. on a Sunday and your dog is in distress.
Absolutely. The data notes that there are tools out there now, like the VitalPet app, which act as great organizational companions for all these records, reminders, and schedules.
But I noticed the literature is very quick to throw a disclaimer on that kind of technology.
Well, they have to be. We live in an era where we want an app to solve absolutely everything.
Right, the app will save us.
But organizational tools are fantastic for tracking data so nothing slips through the cracks. But an app cannot palpate a dog's abdomen to feel a swollen spleen. An app cannot listen to a grade 2 heart murmur.
So it's a filing cabinet, basically.
Yes, technology is a filing cabinet. It never replaces the hands-on, localized guidance of a licensed veterinarian.
Okay, so as we pull all of this together for the listener, we are looking at a remarkably sturdy architecture for lifelong health. We have the core pillars: balanced nutrition and strict weight management that actually alters internal inflammation.
Check.
We have consistent, life-stage adapted physical and mental exercise that prevents cognitive decline.
Absolutely.
We have routine, evolving veterinary care. We have consistent attention to the hidden dangers like dental health. And overseeing it all is a hyper-observant owner armed with organized records, acting as a daily security camera for the dog's baseline.
When you lay it out sequentially like that, it sounds like a comprehensive checklist. But when you break it down into daily actions, it is incredibly manageable.
It's just routine.
Exactly. And there is a detail hidden in the synthesis of all these long-term care studies that I think is the most fascinating takeaway of all, especially for you listening right now.
Oh, lay it on us.
When you commit to executing this checklist, when you actually build these daily sustainable routines around an animal's care, it often creates a healthy structure and rhythm that ends up profoundly supporting the owner's own daily life.
The dog's health routine becomes the human's grounding mechanism.
Completely. Think about the discipline required to maintain an animal's health. You have to wake up at a consistent time to feed them.
Every single day.
You are forced to go outside, get fresh air, and walk, regardless of whether you feel like it. You have to put your phone down and practice being deeply observant and present with another living creature.
Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We started this deep dive talking about how long-term care isn't a clean X-ray or a dramatic medical montage. It's the quiet, often unglamorous accumulation of small daily habits.
The boring deposits in the index fund.
Right. But if a dog's health routines inadvertently force us to build better daily rhythms for ourselves. Wait, let me rephrase that. If keeping a golden retriever lean and mentally stimulated forces us to get outside, to disconnect from our screens, and to practice deep, quiet observation, who is really taking care of whom?
Oh, I love that. The stewardship always goes both ways.
It really does. Could the daily habit of adapting to a dog's changing life stages actually be the ultimate training ground for humans to become more present and adaptable in our own lives?
It is a brilliant way to look at it.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It's been incredibly eye-opening. To everyone listening, keep asking questions, keep observing those baselines, and stay curious. We'll catch you next time.